If you don't know anything about psychedelic therapy, I highly recommend that you watch my first video on mushroom therapy before you watch this one, just so you can have some context, or just do a quick Google search. Because in this video, I'm not going to explain how it works. I'm just going to share my own experience with it. And a quick disclaimer, it is still illegal in most parts of the country. I'm not telling you to go do it. It's just me sharing my experience. My first experience with this was not alone. And so why did I decide to do it a second time by myself? The person that I had learned about this kind of therapy from, he would always say that he doesn't do this alone. Basically, I just heard all this information about why not to do it alone. And at the same time, I decided, okay, that kind of feels like it's right, but I want to see for myself, right? I want to think for myself. I don't just want to take someone else's word for it. And then, that's not how I want to live my life. And so there was two reasons, right? One of them was I wanted to heal. That was like the root of why I was doing it to begin with and why I did it the first time. But why I chose to do it alone was because I didn't want to take someone else's word for this experience and potentially miss out. And a third, smaller reason was just that I wanted to sort of trust myself. I don't like having things that are off limits. I tried LSD when I was 17 for the first time, and since then I sort of carried this fear of doing it by myself. And so in a way, this was also about like, man, I can fucking do it by myself. The world's not gonna end, and it doesn't feel healthy to me to have this thing lingering that I'm terrified of doing, because it shows me that there's things about myself that I don't trust yet. So what was the experience like? I did it by myself, and I ate the mushrooms around 11 in the morning, and I ate them in a fucking peanut butter and jelly sandwich. Terrible way to do it. If you can, I would highly recommend just grinding them into capsules and doing those. I don't care if people say that it loses its potency. Man, it can fucking... I will cut the potency in half if it means I don't have to eat 2 fucking mushroom-filled peanut butter and jelly sandwiches. But that is how I did it because, again, at the time I didn't know any better. It took me maybe 30 to 45 minutes to finish those 2 sandwiches because I ate 6 grams, which is a lot. A quarter of a mason jar full. Just dust and fucking dirt. So after I ate that, I put on a face mask, played some music, no lyrics, no nothing, just instrumental classical music. And I lied down on a sofa and just kind of waited to see what would come up. And so what this experience was like is it lasted maybe like 6 to 7 hours. Really, it lasted the whole day, and you still feel a little bit weird the day after, but after about 6 hours, you can kind of, if you feel ready and if you're done processing, you can kind of get up and go on with your life. And by go on with your life, I don't mean like fucking go party or, I just mean like you can make yourself dinner or read a book or, go to bed. In those 6 to 7 hours, man, I got up and peed at least 20 times. Every single time I actually peed, right? It wasn't a fucking phantom pee. And it was like a minute long of pee every single time, right? And after a while, after like the 10th time, I started drinking a bunch of water because I started to sort of freak out like, man, I'm gonna dehydrate myself. So I started drinking more water, which only made me pee more, which only made me drink more water, and so it was just a fucking loop. I had a lot of aggressive visuals. I have some past experience with sexual trauma, and so a lot of that came up. It came up, and I didn't really go that deep into it. It was just kind of like visuals, and then me like taking the face mask off and just taking a breath and just kind of chilling out. And to that point, I kind of oscillated between feeling completely overwhelmed by the experience and feeling completely at peace. And this was, if I had to break it down, I would say it was 75% feeling at peace and 25% feeling overwhelmed, which is still a lot for 6 to 7 hours, especially being by myself. The whole time that I was on that sofa, my eyes were like leaking but I wasn't, fully crying. I wanted to cry, but I just couldn't fully go there. And I have sort of a theory for why all of these things happened, right? Why was I getting up to pee so much? Why wasn't I able to really let myself go? Why wasn't I, why did I keep taking my face mask off every time something overwhelmed me? And my theory for that is that it's because I was alone, right? And it's less of a theory, and it's really just kind of, in my opinion, a fact about my experience. And so, quick side note about why. So the goal with any psychedelic therapy, or most psychedelic therapies, is to bring up old trauma or bring up unhealed wounds so that you can process them with an empathic witness in the room. Because the reason something was traumatic in the first place is because you didn't have anybody that was empathizing with you, right? If a kid falls down and his parents ignore him, that becomes traumatic. If a kid falls down and his parents come to him, ask him how he's doing, and sort of help him process what's happening, they start running around 2 seconds later, right? And there is no trauma. So doing this by myself was like, I don't have an empathic witness, right? And so what happened is that I didn't feel safe, and that manifested in my body. We're gonna get up every 5 minutes and go pee. We're gonna take our face mask off and take a breather, because if we don't, we might never come back. And we're not gonna fully go there and fully cry and release all of these emotions because we're freaking out, man. And so there's not really anybody here that we can process that with. So we gotta keep ourselves at a distance. Another reason that being alone didn't work for me was because I already have a lot of, trauma with being by myself and being neglected. And so being on 6 grams of mushrooms by myself, all that shit just came up. And then I was like, fuck, I'm also alone doing these mushrooms, right? And sure, I chose to do that, but the narrative in my head started to be, oh, there's nobody in my life that cares about me enough to sit for me on this mushroom trip, right? And so I just fucking, it was like, it just heightened it. I just felt like I wasn't supported. And sure, I proved to myself, like you give me 6 grams of mushrooms any fucking day, I know I'm gonna be okay. And so this wasn't a failure. And I did accomplish my goals, right? Which were, I want to think for myself, I want to trust myself, and I want to overcome my fear. All of those things happened. But as far as the purpose of psychedelic therapies, which is to heal, man, none of that shit happened. This was just, I just lied down on my fucking sofa and tolerated the experience. If I'm being brutally honest, man, this was just like, all right, I saw why the professionals say we should do it a certain way. So that was my experience, and also why I probably am never going to do it alone again. And if there's anything that you are curious about with psychedelic therapies, or anything in this sort of self-care and childhood trauma realm that you're working on maybe, and that you want to know if I have an experience with, leave a comment below, and who knows, maybe it'll be in my next video. All right, thank you for watching.